Hi, my name's Jack and welcome to another Kit Guru review. In today's video I have some striking new products in the ROG range from Asus to take a look at. Here we have the ROG Strix Scope NX TKL keyboard, the ROG Strix Impact 2 mouse, and the ROG Strix Go Core headset. All of these are finished in what Asus calls Moonlight White, a bold white and grey colourway. The collection also extends to the Sentra 2 core headphones and 2 Zephyrus laptops. In terms of pricing, the keyboard comes in at $129.99, the mouse costs $45.99, and the headset costs $74.99. And if you were to buy all of these, it would set you back around £250. And in this video, we're going to be taking a look at whether or not these products are worth the price. I'm going to be breaking this video down into 3 parts to go over each product in enough detail. It's also worth noting that Christina has taken a look at the Impact 2 mouse before, but the black version, and the review is up on the Kit Guru YouTube channel and on the website. So let's start off with the Strix Scope NX TKL keyboard. This comes in fairly standard packaging, although we do get some nice foil elements. Inside we get the keyboard itself, a grey detachable braided 1.8 meter USB Type A to USB Type C cable. This is quite a rigid cable, but the kinks do come out quite easily. You also get a sheet of ROG stickers, a quick start guide, and a warranty book. As you can tell by the name, this is a 10 key less keyboard and is around 20% smaller than usual keyboards. TKL is also my favourite size as it gives you a great compromise between the size of the keyboard and the amount of keys that you actually lose. And because it's smaller, you also get a lot more room for your mouse to move around, which is much better in my opinion than a great big keyboard. And to be honest, any opportunity to just have more desk space is always welcomed. The design of this keyboard is stunning in my opinion, especially with the white and grey colourway of the keys, and this looks brilliant paired with the mouse and headset. It feels like Asus have really made a bold decision to release this Moonlight White collection, especially when you look at the other plain black peripherals we get year in and out. The Strix Scope TKL does feature an aluminium top plate, and there is absolutely no flexing at all with this keyboard. It's incredibly durable. The top plate also features this kind of brushed look on the right hand side and a plain solid look on the left. This did take a bit of getting used to at first because it is just such a bold design choice, but after a while I got used to it and actually I really like the way this looks now. The top plate is also machined incredibly well, and there's no part of it that kind of sticks out in an odd place or you can tell was kind of cut badly. It just fits perfectly on the keyboard and looks really great. One thing I always look out for with keyboards with an aluminium top plate is whether or not they have some metallic pinging noise when you type. Luckily, this doesn't have any issue at all and sounds great when you're typing. Looking at the underside of the keyboard, you have 2 flip-out stands for angle adjustment and a number of rubber pads to stop the keyboard from moving around when you're typing, as well as the ROG logo debossed into the backplate. In terms of weight, the keyboard weighs 880 grams with the cable, so it isn't particularly lightweight, but isn't that heavy either. This is probably like the perfect weight when it comes to a keyboard. In general, it feels really well made, especially with that aluminium top plate to kind of pull everything together and reinforce it. Looking at the functions of the keyboard, it does support on-the-fly macro recording, profile switching, and there's even a stealth key, which is kind of unique to this Asus range. When activating the stealth mode, all of your windows will minimize and your volume will mute. I guess this is useful if you're doing something a little bit questionable, but how many people will use this function? I don't know. I feel like they could have used this button for something more useful. The keycaps on the Strix Scope NX TKL are ABS plastic, which is a shame because at this price point it would have been nice to have seen PBT for extra durability. But this ABS plastic should be fine for everyday use. You also get a larger control key with this keyboard, which is something that I didn't think would be useful at first, but after playing some FPS games and being able to kind of feel around for the keys better because of this large control key, it's actually pretty useful. So the switches inside this keyboard are NX red switches. And these are also available in blue and brown and are ROG exclusive switches rated for 70 million key presses. The red switches have a 1.8mm actuation point with an initial actuation of 40 gram force that extends to 55 gram force for great feeling, rebound and feedback. All of the keys sound pretty good, but I would say that the spacebar sounds a bit clanky and a little bit cheaper than the rest of the keys. Now I've got to say, after using this keyboard for quite some time, that I much prefer the NX switches compared to Cherry MX Reds. These just feel so much more responsive. Typing on this keyboard for gaming and also just general use has been a great experience, and I haven't noticed any mistyping or any issues like that. Looking at gaming specifically, these switches have felt great, and when playing for long durations, that swift and linear movement also helps to keep your fingers less fatigued. Now, looking at the RGB backlight, I have to say that the RGB might be one of the best I've seen in a keyboard in terms of brightness and colour. I would say this is down to the keyboard being white, but Andy did a review of the Strix Scope TKL, the black sort of brushed metal version, and said the same thing about the RGB. So this keyboard obviously does just have great RGB backlighting. So as well as all the keys, we do get this large strip at the bottom of the keyboard, and this kind of illuminates on your desk and looks pretty cool. And we also have the ROG logo on the top right of the keyboard that illuminates brightly as well. If you want to change the brightness of the backlight, you can do this by holding FN and pressing the up and down arrows. And if you want to cycle through the different RGB modes, you hold down FN and press the right arrow. And this will cycle you through various modes, including breathing, color cycle, rainbow, reactive, ripple, starry night, quicksand, current, and raindrop. Now, unfortunately, you can't change the color of the static mode unless you use the Armory software. And that brings me nicely onto the Armory Crate software, so let's take a look at that. So looking at Armory Crate, you can adjust the keys on the keyboard quite specifically, as well as record macros, add shortcuts, and much, much more. Now, on the lighting tab, you can customize the RGB lighting individually for the keyboard, or sync it with your other Aura supported components. And then finally, you can update the firmware. In all, I've really enjoyed using my time with the Strix Scope NX TKL keyboard, and I've found that it offers fantastic build quality, although I'd have preferred to have had PBT keycaps. The RGB is strong and vibrant for those of you who like RGB elements on your peripherals, and I'd say this is brighter than pretty much any other keyboard I've ever used. And these NX switches that are exclusive to ROG products are linear and fast, and I much prefer them to Cherry MX Red. And then the cherry on top of this keyboard is the fact that it actually looks good as well. This is going to look good on any desk, especially when paired with the mouse and headset. So moving on to the mouse, this product actually surprised me quite a bit. So let's just get straight into it. Inside the box, we get the mouse, user documents, and a warranty card, and that's about it. The first thing you'll notice when you get this mouse out of the box is the cheap feeling rubber cable. Now, considering this mouse retails for $45.99, a braided cable would have been nice, but you do learn to live with it, and to be quite honest, it hasn't caused any issues when gaming or in everyday use anyway. So my immediate impressions of this mouse when I first got it out of the box is that it feels quite cheap, especially when you compare it to the premium build quality of the keyboard. When you consider that most mice manufacturers are going for the lightest possible materials, most of them feel like this anyway. This mouse is advertised as lightweight at 79 grams, but I must say that I've been reviewing a lot of mice recently that are sort of like uber lightweight at around 65 grams, and I did notice immediately the difference. But again, this hasn't affected my everyday use or gaming or anything like that. So in terms of design, this mouse does follow a similar gamery aesthetic to the keyboard, but I do think when you look at both of these, they're gamery but also quite minimal at the same time. They kind of really ride that line between being a nice minimal keyboard and mouse set, but then also being kind of gamery without being too over the top. So as you can tell by looking at this mouse, it is ambidextrous, and it's more suited towards claw and fingertip grip. Palm grip just feels a little bit strange due to the shape, and there's no support for your thumb and little finger. Now, I must admit, I've never really understood ambidextrous mice, because if you're left-handed, how do you click the side buttons? Do you use your little finger and stuff? Like, how does that work? Either way, I've been using this mouse with a fingertip grip. It's been really comfortable, actually, and I'm not typically someone that likes ambidextrous mice, so that's got to say something. At the sides of the Impact 2 are these kind of ridged grip, and I've got to say, I don't like this at all. It has a really sweaty feel to it, even when your hands aren't actually sweaty. In general, just not a big fan of this grip. It's not a deal breaker, like you can still use the mouse without any problems, but it just doesn't feel that nice. The whole mouse has this sort of sleek matte finish, other than two tiny strips of gloss on the side buttons. And these side buttons are incredibly narrow and took a little bit of getting used to. I'm used to much chunkier side buttons, but after I'd been using the mouse for about, a day, I got used to it and it was no problem. Looking at the scroll wheel, this has a nice rubber texture, but I would have preferred deeper ridges, but again, this makes no difference in day-to-day use. Scrolling itself is smooth and pretty much silent, although there isn't that much resistance and I would have liked a little bit more. So flipping the mouse over, on the underside we have the DPI button, sensor, and 5 PTFE pads for smooth gliding. And I found this mouse to be practically frictionless when using it on a mouse mat. So the Impact 2 features 6 buttons, and they're all fully customizable in the software. We've got the left and right click, the scroll wheel click, 2 side buttons, and the DPI button underneath. I've said this before in other reviews, I'm not a fan of DPI buttons on the bottom of a mouse, because how are you supposed to change the DPI without literally flipping it over and having to press the button? If you're using the mouse in a game and you can't actually flip it over because you probably die or something, but you want to change the DPI, you can't. Now, one cool feature is that when you do cycle through the DPI modes, all of the LEDs on the mouse blink a particular color that corresponds with the DPI color in the software. So for example, say you have 800 DPI set to purple. If you press and you go to 800 DPI in the cycle, all of the LEDs will flash purple, so you know you're on that setting. So the left and right buttons here have virtually no pre-travel, and that's because of the pivoted button mechanism which Asus has implemented here, and this aims to minimize pre-travel as much as possible. Now, even though the pre-travel is virtually non-existent, there is quite a lot of post-travel, although because of this pivoted mechanism, the mouse button does return back to the starting position really quickly if you let go of it. So have I found the post-travel to cause any issues when gaming? Absolutely not. If anything, the opposite. I've actually found these incredibly fast and accurate for gaming. And here's a quick sound test of all the buttons on the mouse. One of the selling points of this mouse is the ability to swap out the Omron 50M switches. Now this is done by removing the little pads underneath, unscrewing the screws and simply lifting off the top plate. The switches themselves are simply push fit and easily replaceable. Now I'm not sure how many people will do this. If I was to buy a mouse, I'd probably just leave the switches in it forever and not really worry about it. And to be honest, even if the mouse broke, I'd probably just buy another one rather than going through the hassle of actually unscrewing it all and replacing the switches. But if there is a switch that you like in particular, or you just want to extend the lifespan of the mouse, then I guess it's useful. That being said, the switches included in this mouse are rated for 50 million clicks, so it's going to last a long time anyway. The mouse is powered by a 6200 dpi optical sensor with 220 IPS speed and 30 Gs of max acceleration. And I've got to say that the mouse has exceeded my expectations when it comes to accuracy and gaming use. I'll admit that when I saw the specs for the first time, you do compare it to other modern mice being released that have like, I don't know, 32,000 DPI or something ridiculous, and you think, well, how is this mouse possibly going to keep up? But most people game on low DPIs anyway, and I found this mouse to be pretty much perfect. I haven't experienced any jitters or anything like that, it's just worked great. Maybe if you're a pro level gamer, you might notice the difference here, but I think for the average consumer and someone looking to get a gaming mouse, they're not going to be able to tell the difference. And when you pair the DPI with the 1000Hz polling rate for low latency, it's going to make for a great gaming mouse. So in terms of the RGB, just like the keyboard, this is bold and vivid on the mouse. The ROG logo illuminates nicely and doesn't look too distracting, and the scroll wheel RGB is noticeable but subtle, which I like. Then we have two LEDs at the front, and I've got to say that I don't really understand the point of these because they're at the front of the mouse and the person using the mouse will never see these, so I guess it looks good in like the promotional shots and stuff like that, but as someone who is using the mouse, yeah, you're never going to see these LEDs at the front, so what's the point in them? Now the RGB on the mouse does have to be customized in the Armory Crate software because there is no option on the mouse itself to change the RGB. And through the software you can also store up to 3 profiles on the mouse's memory. So let's take a look at the software then and how you can customize this mouse. So from here you can customize all of the mouse buttons, you can set shortcuts or even disable buttons entirely. And from the performance tab you can fine tune your DPI settings and have up to 4 DPI levels. You can also adjust your polling rate from 125 to 1000Hz depending on what you want. And you can change your button response time and turn on angle snapping. Although I would leave this off because this is not good for gaming. From the lighting tab, like the keyboard, there are plenty of different customizations. You can either sync it with your other peripherals or have custom lighting just for the mouse, and there are plenty of effects to choose from. There's also this option called partition, and this is really cool. So basically you can customize each RGB element of the mouse. So the ROG logo, the mouse scroll wheel, and the 2 front LEDs. So you can have the ROG logo as white and the scroll wheel as blue if you want, or whatever kind of combination. And this is actually really cool. Then the last tab is to update the firmware, and this is just to ensure that your mouse is performing as it should. Overall, I think for a mouse costing £50, this is a little bit pricey, and I would expect a braided cable for this price point. I think the option to remove and replace the switches is a little bit gimmicky. I don't know how many people are actually going to do this, and most people, when a mouse costs this much, are probably just going to replace it rather than going through the effort of having to change the switches. If you're a palm grip user, you may find this mouse a little bit uncomfortable, especially as there's no support for your thumb and little finger. If you're a fingertip grip user though, or a claw grip user, you'll be fine with it. Those small negatives aside, I've really enjoyed using the mouse while I've been testing it, and it's been great for gaming. As I said before, I've had no issues with jittering, double clicking, or anything like that. It's just performed as you'd expect. There's also a lot of customization in the Armory Crate software, so you can really fine tune the mouse to how you want it to perform. So let's take a look at the final product I have here in this Moonlight White collection. This is the ROG Strix Go Core headset, and this retails for $74.99. Now this is probably the most no-nonsense product out of the 3 that I've looked at. There's not any fancy RGB, and it's not even a USB headset. It uses standard 3.5mm connections. But that's not a bad thing. The 3.5mm connection does mean that you can use this headset with PC, Mac, phones, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and Nintendo Switch. So if you use more than one platform, you could get a lot of use out of this headset. Don't be fooled by the simple looks of the Go Core. This headset does offer some pretty great features. So starting with the unboxing, the headset comes in the same sort of packaging as the keyboard and mouse, and once you get inside the packaging, it feels relatively cheap, but it's enough to protect the headset. The headset comes with a non-detachable 1.2m 3.5mm cable that can be used with phones, games consoles and laptops. You also get a 3.5m mic and audio splitter cable that's 1.2 meters long. This is for connecting to your PC and any other device that requires a splitter. Then you get a detachable microphone and a foam filter and the user manuals. When you take the headset out of the box, the first thing you're going to notice is the fact that it's incredibly lightweight and it weighs only 252 grams. You'll barely even realize this thing's on your head. When it comes to comfort, this headset does have a lot to offer. The Earcups support both lateral and vertical movements to ensure a perfect fit regardless of what shape head you have. There's also a fair amount of padding in the leatherette coated headband and Earcups, and after playing for long durations with this headset, I didn't notice any discomfort. In terms of sizing, the headset can extend up to 3cm with 6 steps of adjustment. And because this headset's all plastic, it does have a great amount of flex, so it will fit no matter what size head you have. And if you're someone that likes to travel with your headset, you'll be happy to know that this does actually fold up as well, something you don't see in a lot of gaming headsets these days, so it's nice that this is actually portable. The design of the headset follows a similar look to the keyboard and mouse with this white and grey colour scheme. The Earcups feature the ROG branding debossed into the plastic, and I've got to admit that I find this really sleek looking, especially as there's a complete lack of RGB. Inside the Earcups, the ROG logo is visible on the fabric, which is a nice touch. The headband features brushed metal plating with the ROG logo stippled into the metal, which looks great as well. Now this design choice surprised me because most of the time you're not going to see this if you're not extending the headband. But the fact that ROG actually went to the effort to stipple in the logo on the metal plating, it looks really nice and I can really appreciate the attention to detail here. Now at the top of the headband we also have the Republic of Gamers logo debossed into the leatherette, and there's also a smaller silver logo on the Earcups. Now there's only 2 controls on this headset, so as I said, super simplistic. And both of these controls are on the left ear cup. There's a volume scroller and a mute switch for the mic. And that's it, I'm a big fan of the simplicity on this headset. The microphone attaches to the left ear cup. And this flexible microphone actually sounds pretty good, so here's a test.
So this is an audio test of the Go Core microphone. As I said, I think this sounds really good. I got a few compliments in games. People were happy with how this sounded, and actually some people did say it was really crisp, which surprised me because for a £75 headset I didn't expect the microphone to be that good. Right now I'm actually reviewing the Razer Kraken V3 Pro, and that is a £200 headset, so more than 2 times the price of this, and in my opinion this microphone sounds better. In a second we're going to switch to the Razer Kraken V3 Pro, and you guys can decide which one you think sounds best. So now I'm on the Razer Kraken V3 Pro, a £200 headset. Which microphone do you think sounds better? As I said, I think the microphone in the Go Core sounds better, which is surprising considering that it is much cheaper than this headset. So which one do you think sounds better? Let us know in the comments, the £75 Go Core or the £200 Razer Kraken V3 Pro. I've heard both of these side by side, and honestly I do prefer the Go Core. That could just be down to personal preference. You might prefer the Razer Kraken, but you've heard them both now, so you can compare them.
So the Earcups are home to airtight chambers with 40mm Asus Essence drivers that support high-res audio. Now I've got to admit, after using many different headphones, although they all sound wildly different, it's hard to say what sounds objectively good. At the end of the day, whatever I say in this video is completely subjective, but what I can say about this headset is that the mids and highs sound incredibly clear, particularly when listening to music and when gaming. Now I tend to write my reviews while listening to sort of orchestral music and relaxing cinematic music, that kind of thing, and with this headset I could hear every part of the orchestra. Honestly, really clearly, and I was impressed. I'd say that the bass is lacking a bit in this headset, and they're certainly a little bit more trebly than other headsets out there. What I found is that the audio is very crisp and clear with just the right amount of bass that I like. Enough that it's punchy and you'll notice it when it's needed, rather than the bass just being on everything, so everything you ever hear is just booming. So when it came to gaming, I was easily able to place my enemy's footsteps and hear reloads and things like that because they weren't overpowered by bass. So really, no complaints here. In fact, I think this headset is rather impressive. Now the only downside of this headset is that because it's a 3.5mm connection instead of USB, you can't change the EQ or anything like that in Asus's software. Now what you do get though is Windows Sonic, and this is like a virtual 7.1 surround sound. It's free, it's included in Windows, you just have to activate it. Windows Sonic essentially converts 7.1 surround sound to stereo while trying to properly place all the different sound elements. I gave this a try in some games and it sounded pretty good, but one thing I always find about 7.1 surround sound that's virtually created is that it's never quite right, and because it's trying to place things in all different directions, you tend to lose frequencies on other sounds as well, so things can sound a bit tinny and strange. But overall, it works okay. So what do I think of the Strix Go Core? Well, this is probably the first 3.5mm headset that I've used in a long time, but don't let that scare you off. This does produce some brilliant sound, and the microphone is really good quality as well, especially considering that £75 price point. Although I do think this headset would be better priced around £50, so if you can find it somewhere cheaper, then I recommend getting it. I do think $74.99 is a little bit more expensive, especially as there are other headsets out there that do offer some better features and slightly better build quality for this price point. So looking at this set as a whole, the keyboard, mouse and headset do all have some great features, and when it comes down to the basics of how they perform, all of them performed probably a bit better than my expectations. So if you're in the market for a full peripheral set, particularly one with bold colour choices, I definitely recommend this Moonlight collection from ROG. And that's it, that's pretty much the end of my review of this Moonlight White collection from Asus ROG. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like, it really helps out the Kit Guru channel. If you want to see more from us, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell icon as well, and you'll be notified when Kit Guru uploads another video. Be sure to check us out on socials for the latest reviews and updates, and you can support us on Patreon for extra content. If you want to pick up one of these t-shirts, the merch links are in the description. That's it from me, my name's Jack, you've been watching Kit Guru, and I'll see you in the next one.